Let's face it, there are many people right now considering buying land, so basically they can have something that they can do what they want, build that dream home, and nobody's going to tell them what they can or can't do. Now, not knowing the warning signs and the upfront costs of buying any piece of land, though, can cost you thousands of dollars, maybe even drain your bank account. Now, if you're thinking of buying land, then this video is for you, and you will want to pay close attention and take some notes so you don't get yourself into trouble if you're thinking of buying land. And in this video, I'm going to share a story about buying land and the expenses that I didn't even account for, and I hope this will educate others so they don't make the same mistakes. First off, my $100,000 mistake buying land to build a home was back in 2008, right around the start of the greatest financial crisis in history, and I bought a 1¼ acre piece of land. I had my plans ready to build a home and figured I knew enough about land that I didn't need much guidance. Then boom! After I owned the land, I was shocked to find out that I needed to pay $45,000 water tap fees. And yes, when you buy your land, if it's in an area that is public water, the municipality will make you pay what's called a water tap fee to get public water. Now, around my area, this can usually run anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 just to tap into the public water system. Now, if you're in a more rural location, then you'll likely need a well and septic system, and that can run you again around $40,000 to $60,000 for both, depending on what area you're in. And make sure you account for these up front, as again, I did not back then, and I learned the hard way. Now, after getting through that water tap fee, my builder then ordered a thing called a soils report so they could engineer the foundation. I'm originally from Nebraska, so I just figured all soils are good like back home, but not in Colorado. That soil report came back that the soils were full of clay and bentonite, which are very expansive soils, and the engineer proposed 25 helical piers to stabilize the foundation at a cost back then between $50,000 and $70,000. Again, that was a cost I hadn't even expected or planned for up front. Now, we had a few engineer options, and finally I did what was called a 10-foot overdig of the area, which was considerably less than the helical piers, but I was already $100,000 into water tap fees, excavation, and foundation before I'd even started anything else. Now, make sure, again, you ask all these questions like that up front, as this will save you a bunch of money in the long run. Now, after you purchase that land, or while you're negotiating, or even just considering buying the land, always ask for a recent survey on that property. That survey will show you where the property lines begin, where they end, and make sure while you're out walking the property that you find all the lot pins that mark the actual lot line. Now, you may need to go even get a metal detector to help you do this. And if there is not a survey on the land, make sure you add this as part of your dates and deadlines on your contract so you can get this information up front before you actually close. And do not, and I repeat, do not buy the land and order this after the fact. Now, another important thing is get title insurance on that land. This will show you any outstanding liens on the land, as well as any easements on the land as well. And if you do not know how to look for liens or understand easements and such, get a professional like an attorney or a good real estate agent to help you. And if you need a good agent, my contact link is down below. I can connect you with a good experienced agent out in your area. And if you're wondering, what is an easement? An easement is a legal right that allows a person or an entity to use another person's property for special use without owning it. And you'll see utility easements for the utility companies to use your land, and especially when you're in the mountains, you may have easements for others to be able to cross your land. And one thing to know before purchasing the land you're looking at, make sure that you have good access to that property and that piece of land is not landlocked. And when I say landlocked, that means you have an easement to get to your property. And the owner that is granting you that easement, they may charge you a lot of money just to give you the ability to cross their land. And the cost that they ask may be so much, you may just pass on buying that piece of ground altogether. Now, you'll also want to know if there are any encroachments on the property. Again, before purchasing that property, make sure a neighbor's fence is not onto the land you're looking at, or maybe that neighbor built a shed that's partially on the land that you're looking at. This, again, is so important. And just by going out, walking the land, you can get a feel for things. And if these types of issues are in question at all, then get that survey, as it is part of your contract, so you can protect yourself from anything that comes up later. Now, another important thing to address when buying land, is there any deed restrictions on that property? Now, this is where many people go wrong, as they think they own the land and they can do whatever they want, but that is far from the truth. In fact, land can have many restrictions that you are not allowed to do, so you'll always want to know what deed restrictions are in place before you purchase that ground. Now, things like horses, people buy land to be able to have horses, and believe it or not, there are a lot of restrictions that will keep you from this. Some areas go by the size of the lot to determine how many, if any, horses you can have. Even if you're not a horse person, make sure to know this, as it could hurt resale, as a lot of people, they buy land for that purpose. Other deed restrictions are the size of the property you can build. There may be a minimum square footage the home can be. Just be sure you look into this ahead of time to avoid any major surprises. Now, this one gets overlooked all the time, or people just think this is the way it usually goes, and that is the water and mineral rights on that land. You see this a lot. You'll see the water and mineral rights are owned by a separate party, and they may even date back many years ago. And more times than not, those rights will not be transferred. And what this means is that you could wake up one day and find that a company is going to start drilling for oil on that land, and they have the total right to do so. And like I said, many people, they're just going to buy the land, and depending on where it's located, obviously giving up those mineral rights, because they just feel like there's absolutely no chance of that ever happening. But just be prepared, because anything can happen. The next thing that can be expensive if overlooked up front, does the land perk? A perk test means a soil evaluation that determines how well water will drain through that soil. The test will be important for items like the septic system, or planning a building design, or even considering agricultural use of the land. Hopefully the land will drain properly so it doesn't have some sort of swampy sewer smell, but you can still correct it if it doesn't, but it will get very expensive. And speaking of a septic system and bedrooms, if your plans are to build, say, a 4-bedroom home, then get a septic system approved for a 5 or 6-bedroom home. Do not pin yourself in a corner on this, as once that system is designed for 4 bedrooms, and say you go and build 5, the county won't pass that system when you go to resell that property, making an added expense to upgrade that system. Now, here's another expense not considered when I bought land back in 2008, those dreaded property taxes. Oh my, do not get hung up on a load tax that's reported on that land currently. Land in most areas is assessed as commercial, so it can jump anywhere from $1,000 a year to $10,000 a year fast, which I found out the hard way. Again, do your due diligence, call the county, or if you don't feel comfortable with doing this, get a professional that can help you out. If you're getting a loan to finance the land, you need to keep in mind that too is a whole different process, unlike buying a regular home. Banks usually require 30% or more as a down payment. The interest rates are a bit higher too. They can be 10 to 13%, say in a current market like we're in. And banks, especially in this current market we're in, will be a bit more stringent on giving land loans. Now, one option that a lot of people do not know about is asking the seller to do what's called owner financing. This is a great option, as sellers know it's an uphill battle getting a loan through a bank just for land. That is why so many sellers are willing to do this option. And how an owner carry works, basically the seller is the bank, the title company will handle all the paperwork, just like a traditional closing. Now, the terms may be beneficial to you as well. They may require less down, and say you'll have interest-only payments based upon a balance that's amortized over a 25-year period. And whereas a bank usually will have the whole balance due in 12 months, a seller finance deal sometimes is 3, 5, 7, even 10 years before they will expect the full balance to be paid in full. Now, I've done these options many times, and it works great for both the buyer and the seller. And one thing I want to let you know, do not let your real estate agent try to steer you away from a seller finance deal. Most of the time, it's due to the fact that the real estate agents feel they're not going to get paid, which is not true at all, as sellers pay commissions on these types of deals all the time, so do not worry about that at all. So there are the important things you should know when buying land, and this video is to help others avoid those mistakes I encountered before. And again, remember to think about the things like the water tap fees, the well and septic, your soils report, the survey, title insurance, encroachments, deed restrictions, the property taxes, if that land perks, the financing, and I failed to mention the utilities. Make sure that those are nearby as well. And if not, you can get them there, but it'll cost you some additional money as well. And if you do your homework up front, you'll avoid these costly mistakes that I made back in 2008. Now, please share this video with others if you think it'll benefit them, and like and subscribe. Also, my contact info is down below if you have any questions or you need a referral, and we'll see you next time.